broadcasting live from our flagship studio in Atlanta, Georgia. This is Scaling in Public, the next 100 Business RadioX markets. Featuring founders Lee Kantor and Stone Payton, along with some of America's top coaches, helping them grow the network with real strategy, real lessons, and real accountability, all shared in public. To learn more about the proven system that turns podcast interviews into a perpetual prospecting pipeline through generosity, not gimmicks, go to brxhq.com and download the free Business RadioX playbook. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to another exciting and informative edition of Scaling in Public. Lee Kantor, Stone Payton here with you. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast our coach for this session, Maggie Ishak. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Stone?
I'm doing well. Really been looking forward to this session, and I'm going to turn it over to you and let you do your thing.
Likewise. It's great to actually be with both of you here. I'm looking forward to this. So I want to pick up where you left off with Todd in session number 2 around your unique approach. So tell me what's been percolating in your minds about your unique approach since that conversation, and maybe how has that changed your thinking towards this goal to 100 studio partners?
Well, for me, I don't know that it's changed my thinking as much as it has just reinforced some really closely held beliefs. So we may need to work on that. But I walked away from that session just thinking about the way we approach leveraging these tools, the methodology, the opportunity to give people this platform to share their story and promote their work. The way we do it, still to me to this day, and we're 20 plus years into this, other people who are using some of these same items, and recording conversations, I don't think we're doing it at all the way they are. And maybe we're just not articulating that clearly enough or enough. And maybe we just got to get a lot better at that. I mean, I can't find anybody that's doing it the way we're doing it.
I agree. I don't think there is anybody doing it the way you're doing it. Lee, how about from your perspective?
My biggest takeaway was kind of what Stone was saying, in that I don't think we're doing anything wrong in terms of our methodology. What I think we're doing wrong is not articulating how quickly we can get somebody going and seeing tangible results. And that was what I started working on immediately after. I was like, okay, let me break down our process and let me start building playbooks to get people to see results as quickly as possible. And that was my big epiphany moment from the work with Todd, because I think that is something we're lacking. We take for granted a lot of the methodology that we do and the work that we do every day to kind of fill our pipeline. And I don't think that people realize that they could be filling their pipeline as easily if they could leverage a platform like the Business RadioX platform.
Okay. All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is kind of the value that you bring to your clients and how to articulate that. So thinking about that topic, by the time we're done in whatever the 30, 45 minutes that we've got today, what would be an ideal outcome for you as you think about the value that you bring?
So for me, specific language, or at least a path to specific language that is succinct, that can communicate very quickly, at least enough of the idea, enough differentiation from what people think they know about this platform or what they have seen or what their nephew's podcast is like, enough for them to want to know more, to have a deeper conversation. If I could walk out with that, then I would feel like we've really made some real strides.
Okay, that's great. Lee, how about you?
Yeah, I think we're working on this clarity of messaging so that we can communicate our value proposition as quickly as possible, so people understand what we do, why we do it, and how it works faster. And I think one of our challenges is that in a studio environment like we're in now, it becomes clearer what we do and why it works and how a person could benefit if they viscerally feel what happens in a studio, where most of the work we've been doing lately is virtual, where that's a little trickier, and it's hard to differentiate what we're doing in a virtual setting as to what we do in an in-person setting.
Okay, got it. All right. So, Lee, I want to come back to a point you made just a couple of minutes ago around how quickly you can get studio partners ramped up and seeing some value. What do your studio partners see in 90 days?
In 90 days, they see quite a bit. And I think Stone's a better person to illustrate this because he moved to this community, this studio that we're sitting in now. We both started out, he was in East Cobb and I was in Sandy Springs. He moved up to Woodstock and he kind of started from scratch. Woodstock, is where it is relative to Atlanta. It's
not nearby.
Right. It's part of the Metro Atlanta, but that's, kind of being generous. So Stone, why don't you share about how quickly leveraging this platform enabled you to kind of immerse yourself in the business community?
Sure. And had I come here 2 years prior, I would have come and gotten this space and then followed our methodology to build things out. We were kind of on the heels of COVID when we moved here. And so I did develop some degree of comfort doing some virtual interviews. So the way I decided to launch was we already had a home bought here, but we were still in the home in East Cobb. So I started Cherokee Business Radio as a virtual show to get my first 10 or 12 interviews. And so I reached out using our processes to invite people to come on the show, share their story, promote their work. Of course, as always, people are like, yeah, what do I got to do? I'd love to come on and talk about me, And so I had a dozen interviews of local Woodstock and Cherokee County people already in the can by the time I got here, right? So because I'm inviting them on the show, I'm doing all the things that we do. And then so once I got here, I already had some momentum. And then when I reached out to those people again to tell me, to recommend other people that we should maybe have in the studio, they were thrilled that we were here, that we had the studio. And then from that point, I invited people to come on Cherokee Business Radio and, be right here at the innovation spot in the studio. So I got going very quickly, and it's gonna sound like I'm on my soapbox, but I also I followed our methodology to the letter. I invited people the way we recommend that you invite people. I said things before we went on air that we recommend you say to people before we go on air. I conducted the interview, including all of the hosting mechanics that we've refined over the last 20 years in that exact way. I didn't try to get creative. I just followed the methodology. And in the span of a few weeks, I had a handful of clients. I had a great reputation. And I'm not a networky guy for a lot of reasons, but I don't need to be a networky guy because I have this. This is my network thing. But there was one group that I wanted to go check out. Young professionals of Woodstock. It's when all us young folks get together on Thursday morning, Maggie. I don't know why they let me in, but when I walked in, I was a known quantity. I was just boom right out of the box. You join a networking group or something, it takes you a while. You probably ought to volunteer. You might want to help out on the events and all that. I was a known quantity right out of the box. And so it just all happened very quickly. And now I'm 3.5 years in. I mean, everybody knows Stone. I know every bartender in town, of course, but I don't have to buy a drink if I don't want to. And everybody knows that I'm a good guy doing good things. And yes, in concert with our methodology, I do make sure that I have prospective clients in the studio every week. But I also have, the lady who runs the flower shop or the nonprofit. So this thing of ours lets you be so nice, so often, so easy, so fast. And to me, if you can do that consistently, you can't help but grow your business. And so that was my experience in getting this studio off the ground. And it's fast and it's easy.
Okay, I want to repeat back some of the things that I've heard both of you say. So within 90 days, have a steady stream of interested prospects, clients, and you don't have to sell a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And Stone, you said, it made me be known so easy, so nice, so often, so fast. what would somebody have to pay for that? I'm not talking about your partner fees. What would that cost somebody doing it in another way?
2 to 3 years. Does it cost them time?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, and money in terms of
money and all
networking fees
but,
and buying people coffee and lunch and
right. But to me, the big price is time. You might could get to my reputation and my network in this area a different way, but it's going to take you 2 or 3 years that I got to in 90 days. Absolutely. No question.
So I'm going to flip the script for you a little bit. So I started my business a couple of years ago, and I've been joining the BNIs, joining the associations, and joining a number of other networking groups and volunteering to do things and taking people to lunch. And it has taken me time. If you had told me 2 years ago, I could have gotten exactly where I am today, 90 days from when I started, with a much smaller investment and a lot less headache, I would have said, sign me up.
Well, that's encouraging. That's great. But let me ask you this. You've actually been in the studio as a guest before. You've gotten to know us a little bit. You know other people that are affiliated with us and doing great things, like in Houston, John Ray and Tricia. But if you didn't have the benefit of all that, does it maybe sound too good to be true, though? Is it? Because I know a lot of coaches, consultants, fractional execs, all these people in the professional services arena, and I feel like for so much of their career they've been scratching and clawing to build these relationships. It's hard, and then I come along and say, well, just take this little red pill, and you don't have to do all that. Does it sound too good to be true? Maybe
a little bit, but I will tell you, there's a lot of other organizations and people out there with other offers that also appear too good to be true. And in my mind, some of it is kind of the what you put in versus what you get out, right? So you could tell me, come be a studio partner, and if I don't follow your methodology and use your script and use your process, I may not get the results that you promised me.
Yeah, you won't. And that's another question. I don't know if it's for this session or not. I think Lee and I, we're such I don't even know what the label for it is, but we've pretty much said, here's our best practices, here's our methodology, here's what we know works. Don't break a couple of rules over here that these are non-negotiable, but here's what we recommend, but you be you and go do your thing. And so there's part of me that wonders if we shouldn't be a little more stringent and say, no, this is the way you got to do it, at least for a while. Because no, they're not going to get the results if they do it their way. At least that's my experience so far.
Okay, so let me maybe turn this a little bit and think about, of your existing studio partners, what makes a good one? How would you define a good studio partner?
One that really immerses themselves in the business community.
Okay.
Like they have to kind of be all in that. They have to say, okay, I really believe it's important to serve the business community. I believe that by supporting and celebrating business, that's good for the community and it'll be good for me. If they want to do this in a transactional manner, like what's in it for me, how can I make money off of you, that it's not going to work. I mean, you have to have a heart of service if you want to do this, and it can't be a transactional experience. It has to really be an experience where you're trying to serve and just kind of, oh, by the way, this is what I do, and maybe there's a fit, and then maybe we can work together, rather than I did this for you, now I need you to do this for me. It can't be a quid pro quo relationship. It has to be, I'm here to serve, and this is how I serve, and if we want to work together, that's great, but if we don't, that's great too. And I just want you to win, and I think you can win with me, but I'm not going to say you have to win with me. You do you, I'm going to do me, and I believe if I'm relentlessly doing this service, I'm going to win enough.
Okay, so thinking back to your discussion on your ideal client profile and what are those maybe attributes, Lee, I think that's super important what you just described. You're looking for prospects,
servant leaders, right?
Yeah, but that align with your values.
100%.
And I would expect that you could see evidence of that from these prospects before you even have a conversation with them. So I'm going to go back to 2 sessions ago, one of the things that you were talking about was not wasting your time with those who may not be a fit and trying to recognize that up front.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I want to ask this the other way. Have you run into people that have been interested in you, but then you kind of get this, I'm not sensing there's a fit here because maybe they are too transactional, or they are looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, or they're looking for, the magic pill.
Right. If somebody, one of the clues for me at least is I'm doing this because I want to be famous and this is about me. And then my guests are just props to make me look good. They're not going to be a fit for what we're trying to do. If you want to do a podcast or you want to have a show that makes you the smartest person in the room, do that on your own. You don't need us to do that. If you want to do a show that grows your business, that serves your community, we can help you there.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly well said. You've heard me on my soapbox a little bit in terms of repeatable processes and transferable tools for key tasks. But I think also at the heart of it is someone who is willing to take personal accountability for helping the client get another client. Like they really are invested, like once they do get the business, in helping the client get another client. That is a theme that runs through everything we do, and I think our values are in complete support of that.
Okay. So let me ask this question. For your existing partners, if Business RadioX went away tomorrow, what would it cost them to rebuild?
Well, they'd have to create their own platform to get the word out. And the benefit of working with us initially is super obvious because they get to come into a market that doesn't have us and all of a sudden has us. And then they get to use the halo effect of our brand and our website and all of the content, the 100,000 interviews we've done as a backdrop to them. So they get to start with a running start rather than from square one start. Number two is they lose the infrastructure. They're going to have to replace the infrastructure to help them publish, distribute, edit, all the stuff that it takes to execute the work that we do. So they'll have to rebuild that. I mean, that's in terms of hours, it's dozens of hours, if not thousands of dollars. And then they would have to replace this kind of, they'd have to replace the methodology that we use to get that next guest. So they'd have to, build that from scratch on their own as well. So it's a matter of time, money, and systems that we have and we've been doing and honing over the years. That's today. But then they'd also lose our brain power that we've been leaders in this kind of niche for 20 years. We've been doing this for decades. So they lose any future, brilliance that we come up with down tomorrow.
Okay. So, Lee, I know pricing is something that we eventually want to have a conversation about. Start doing some math in your mind of all those things that you do.
Right. I mean, it's thousands of dollars. I mean, they'd have to get new virtual assistants to execute. They'd have to get new systems. They'd have to host the content somewhere. You have to put the content somewhere. You have to then distribute the content. You have to edit the content. Like that's either going to be you or you're going to hire someone to do that. So at some point, they're going to have to write checks or buy subscriptions to, 20
all
different services in order to just do one show.
Or decide, okay, that's not going to work either. So now I got to come up with this whole other approach of building real relationships real fast. And there may be some other ways to do that. I'm not aware of them. So they would have to go figure that out if they just said, okay, I'm done with this set of tools we did, I don't know. I don't know what they would do.
Okay. So how does that make you think about your offer for studio partners and the pricing that you've currently got and the value that you're giving them?
Well, it makes me think that we maybe should revisit it. We might need to consider making the price higher.
Uh-huh.
A couple of things that are a challenge in that regard is actually our business. If you look at our business model, our existing pricing, if we can get 100 studios next year and then build to the 1,000 studios that we want, we make plenty of money. So we don't really need the pricing to make the money. I just wonder sometimes if we need higher pricing to be consistent with the value story that we have. And I would, I'd rather have 100 studios at the existing pricing than 50 at double the price. At the moment, I'm more interested in the 100, and maybe that's the wrong way to see it. Maybe I should be more interested in 50 at double the price. I don't know.
What is your ultimate goal?
1,000 studios. There's 1,000 people out there using this platform to help them grow their existing business and being in the Business RadioX business of serving their community and helping other people serve their clients.
Why 1,000?
Actually, Lee's done some math on it. I'd like it just because it's a nice round figure.
So the rationale behind 1,000 is there's around 8,000 chambers of commerce in America right now. And I mean, that number may be plus or minus, 500, but say 8,000. And I believe that there should be a Business RadioX supporting and celebrating the work of the top 15% of the most active chambers in America. And that would be good for those 1,000 markets if they had a media property out there telling the stories of the businesses in those markets. And that would help those communities. It would help the American economy. It would help all those entrepreneurs. So that's where that came from. It's the 80-20 rule, basically, of saying that we should be in the top, 15, 20% of the markets that are out there.
Okay. So I have a question. You've been talking about working with coaches and consultants and other genres of businesses. This is the first time I've heard you talk about chambers and using this tool as a way to support local business through the chambers.
The chambers of commerce are an important component of our business. I mean, my studio in Atlanta in Sandy Springs is in the Greater Perimeter Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I work arm in arm with the Chamber of Commerce. We've worked arm in arm with the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce and with the business associations that touch Atlanta since our inception. I mean, so yes, chambers are an important part of our go-to-market strategy.
Okay, but thinking about the value that you bring to these potential studio partners, how could you leverage chambers to help you with that?
Well, all of our studio partners have a relationship with their Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
I mean, they all...
and a lot of them have shows.
Right,
have like a chamber show, and then they're very involved with the chamber, and their positioning within the chamber is very different, and again, fast, right? Because if I'm going to let the chamber come in and do a monthly show to celebrate its members and all that kind of stuff, then I'm probably going to be on the Jim Jammy level of the board or whatever, the golden circle or whatever they call it.
Right. We don't look at chambers as a way to make money. We look at chambers as a way to just enhance our positioning within the community. So the chamber becomes our partner and they become a path to their members because they're going to invite their members on the shows that we're going to help kind of co-produce together.
Right. So where my brain went, though, was you're on this path to 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's 8,000 chambers out there.
Right.
You want to target the top 15, 20%.
Right.
What's stopping you from going directly to those chambers to find your next studio partners?
There's nothing stopping us from doing that.
Okay.
It's just we need boots on the ground in the market. Like we can have a conversation with the Memphis Chamber of Commerce tomorrow, Stone and I. We can have a conversation with any Chamber of Commerce in America tomorrow. That's not...
And we can have them on the air tomorrow.
Right. We can be interviewing them.
So I have an analogy for this. And
okay, yes.
My analogy for the way we've tried to approach it so far, because the growth that we do have, and I mean, we shouldn't be ashamed of the growth. We feel like we should have done a lot more, a lot faster. But because, like, if we do want to have a conversation with the Memphis Chamber, it's a phone conversation and then it's a virtual interview, right? I'm not going to hop on a plane and go down there. Maybe I should, I don't know. But I feel like I'm hopping in a rowboat, rowing out to the middle of the bay, and then trying to sell somebody an outboard motor. Because the whole interaction with the Memphis Chamber is this virtual interaction that looks and smells a little bit more like their nephew's podcast. So that may be a barrier I'm building for myself, but I feel like, because if we were interviewing if we were at Memphis doing some work live, then yeah, I think they would be all over it. And believe me, we wouldn't have any challenge getting them or their members on the air. But as far as getting
finding a studio partner,
and
finding a studio,
that's the challenge, is identifying that right human being in the local market that believes what we believe and that can execute what we recommend executing. That's our challenge.
So how have you found your existing studio partners?
God bless Mike Salmon. First guy we put out in the wild.
Who's Mike? Tell me
his name is Mike Salmon. He's our Gwinnett studio partner for another week. That's another story because he has sold that business, and sounds to me like he's got a really nice exit, and the guy coming in has got a great deal. He's got a lot going for him. But Mike, he's just because of the work that he's done in Gwinnett. He introduced us to the guy who runs the Business RadioX in Gainesville, the guy who runs it in Jefferson County, the lady who runs the Cumming Business RadioX operation.
John Ray.
What's that?
John Ray. In North Fulton.
So Mike Salmon, that's
he has been with us for 13 years, and he just is a true believer,
and he's that
really
guy
evangelized.
His value system is so wholly consistent with our value system, right?
And he came from a traditional broadcast background, so he understood some of the way that traditional broadcasting goes to market, and he incorporated some of that into his work in Gwinnett, and he's really made a go of it and successfully has run a studio for 13 years there, and now has sold it to go and do what he's
something else.
Something that he's always wanted to do his whole life, and now the opportunity has presented itself. So he's following kind of his little kid dream. So
okay, so I'm going to repeat back what I heard. Though you had an existing studio partner that believed so strongly in what you do that he evangelized for you.
Correct.
Okay, so what?
With generosity too,
right?
His evangelizing was not based on I'm going to evangelize so that Stone and Leo write me a check for getting someone else.
Right.
He did it because he's Mike and because he believes like us.
And his values were similar to ours. I mean, he was the right person for us to kind of award the first studio to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do know some of your other studio partners, and I don't know Mike, but the ones that I know have huge hearts,
right,
and very much believe in what they do.
Correct.
So this may come across really, I don't know what the right word is here, but have you actually asked them for referrals for other studio partners?
We have.
Okay. And how has that gone?
We haven't gotten as many studio partner referrals from anyone else other than Mike.
What differentiates Mike from your other studio partners? What makes the value for him that
has a full head of hair. I tell you that. He's a good-looking kid, They're all kids to me. He's probably 40-something, but anyway. But what would you say?
What differentiates Mike?
I don't know. I mean, I think his level of generosity is exceptional.
Which is one of our key values, by the way. Maybe our most important one.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a great answer for you.
Can I give you that as a piece of homework?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What makes him different? And then maybe asking him what value he's gotten and how would he characterize that? And maybe that's what needs to be bottled up.
I mean, I've been to his house when he bought his house where he lives now.
Okay.
And he stood up in front of everybody and said, "This is the house that Business RadioX built." And he said he wouldn't be.
And he
here.
meant it. He meant it.
Right.
Does he have like a Business RadioX tattoo on him?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, he is he appreciates us at a level maybe other people don't appreciate us, because he knew what it was like before us and he experienced what it was like after working with us. And some of the other people, I don't know if they give Business RadioX the credit that that maybe they should.
Well, and occasionally that happens at the client level too, right?
Right.
Like you bring on a client.
I mean, I've had, I'll tell you specific examples. Because what we do every day is we invite people on shows.
Yep.
right? And that's how we make our first impression. And we build a relationship, one-on-one, face-to-face in this kind of studio environment. And then I've had clients, have a show, meet the person for the first time, build the relationship, and then they start doing business a year later. And they don't remember that the first relationship began here. They think it happened because they kept talking to them over the next 12 months. And they forget that the reason they met was because we had a tool that helped them meet and build and start a relationship in a very organic, authentic manner. And sometimes they forget that. And sometimes they minimize that. And to us, the first conversation is the hardest one. And this tool allows you to make a lot of first conversations elegantly in a service-minded way. And sometimes you forget. And sometimes we have to do a better job as Business RadioX to remind people. When we're working with our clients, hey, you didn't know that person before, or here's a list of all the people that you had on your show. How many of them are you doing business with now? Because when they come on a show, it's not like they start doing business the next day. It's not like you're at the grocery store and you see a Snicker bar and you buy a Snicker bar. This is something that could take months. And then all of a sudden you're doing business and you kind of forget how you met.
Or they introduce you to somebody and it's because of the show.
But you forget.
And that connection's not obvious.
Yeah. Right. So that, I think, sometimes hurts us because our system is so elegant and authentic that you kind of forget sometimes that without it, it was a lot harder to meet people. It was a lot harder to have those first conversations. It was a lot more awkward, or it felt a little salesy or inelegant. Where in our situation, it's very authentic, it's very elegant, and it's very service-minded. So sometimes you just don't connect the dots that it was this that really helped you kind of launch. It wasn't kind of your charm and good looks.
Okay. Stone, did you want to add something to that?
No, I think he said it very well. So, it does happen. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to maybe connect a couple of dots here and throw out something for consideration. So think back to your conversation around your ideal client. Okay. And what you just described in the last few minutes around people that need, or that people that have that mindset of generosity and have the same value set that you do, but also what I just heard you say will likely appeal to those who are in a service space who aren't naturally conversational and naturally wanting to strike up these conversations at networking events and find ways to build relationships in a way that is authentic, right? That it feels, it has that ick factor to it.
Correct.
Right? How would you characterize that and put a value on that for somebody where that's their hurdle between them being successful in their business and then not?
Right. Well, to me, that's really, you can't put a price on it. The price is all the money.
It's your whole business.
It's your whole, this is the lever that solves that problem, that gets you out of your own way. A key component to our business is my own introversion. I am a hyper introvert. I do not like being around people. I don't like going to networking meetings. I'm 100% an introvert. I created this whole system for me. I wanted a way to get people to come to me. I didn't want to be the person that's going out there and shaking hands and making small talk. I hate that. So I created this in order to create I wanted a seat at the table. So I made my seat at the table. I'm sitting in Stone's seat and I'm hosting these shows. So that creates my space to bring people to me in a way that fits my personality. I don't have to sit here and schmooze and do all the stuff that introverts hate. I can just invite people. Hey, you know anybody doing interesting work? Hey, know anybody doing interesting work? My superpower is I'm a great listener. I know how to do active listening, and I'm curious. So if I can just meet people and invite them in here, people are going to want what I have. So I don't have to pitch myself anymore. I don't have to do any of that icky sales stuff anymore.
Do you tell that story?
I've told the story.
But maybe not enough to
I've
enough
not,
of the right
I've
people.
not heard that story.
Well, that's the
Now,
story.
maybe I'm not in the right place to hear
That's
the
the
story.
origin. That's the origin story of this business.
How can you take that origin story and scream it loudly?
I do think we need to scream it loudly and make sure we scream it loudly in the right places. And at the other end of the continuum is me. I'm not
You're not the hyper introvert.
I'm not remotely introverted. I am the guy that has a handful of jokes that always hit. I am the guy that's happy to shake hands, but I get a great deal of emotional compensation. I'm a cheerleader. I really enjoy helping other people, being nice to other people. And this just lets you do that. You can be so nice to so many, and it all comes back to you. So you get that piece of it. But just the emotional compensation of being the local Business Radio X person, I can do so much for the lady that runs the flower shop, the person who's running the nonprofit, and the fractional exec that doesn't know how to do business development. And I can help all of them, and I can be the nice guy. And I can pick and choose my moments when I want to be in groups of people. And when I'm the cool guy with Business Radio X. I'm not the guy trying to hand you his business card and force you into a cup of coffee next Monday. And I love being in that position. And there's a degree of emotional compensation that comes with that for me that it almost supersedes the financial compensation. But I do find that the more people you can help, the more money you make. This has been my experience over the last, even more than the 20 years since I jumped on Lee's coattails. The more people you help, the more money you make, and the more money you make, the more people you can help. And I mean, once you get that flywheel going, I mean, you couldn't stop it if you wanted to. So for me, it's great at the extremes. I don't know about the people in the middle, but if you really enjoy being nice to people and helping other people, this is a really cool way to be able to do that and help all kinds of people.
I think you just said your messaging.
Good. We should have recorded it, maybe. Oh, we did, didn't we? Oh, perfect.
We'll go back and listen to the recording. But if you like helping people, you also mentioned this flywheel that doesn't stop. Now, I heard, Lee, you said hyper introvert. Okay.
Yeah.
I would imagine that if you go out there and say, we have a solution to help the hyper introverted people who own businesses be able to sell without selling, you don't have a line going out the door. Or some variation of that. I mean, maybe this is what's also keeping some people from starting their own business because they don't have a way to go talk to people and build those relationships, and they're deathly afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there's a coach that I know. Her niche is introverted people. Like, that's how she markets.
Interesting.
Just saying.
Okay.
If that's where you've had the most success. Now go back to Mike that you mentioned a few
Right,
minutes
so
ago. Is
we
he a
haven't-
hyper introvert?
No, we haven't had the
No.
most success from
With the introverts.
I'm the only introvert.
Mike's
I
a
think.
little bit more like me. Mike has a stronger work. Mike is willing to go out and do more of the day-to-day group networky stuff.
Mm.
So I guess while I'm at the other end of the extreme of the continuum in terms of being an extrovert, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit aloof, or maybe I'm really protective of my time, or maybe it's a position. I don't know what it is, but I don't enjoy the standard networky, hey ho, what do you do? What do I do? What do you need? That just drives me nuts. I enjoy genuine conversation. I would rather have a genuine conversation with someone that I know I can help with these toys, even if there's no way in a million years that I'm ever going to see any money out of that. Then I'd rather have that conversation than, this transactional exchange and have somebody pay me a few $1,000. I really like being the cool guy in town.
With the toys.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll ask you a question. You mentioned earlier that when you started your coaching business, you were doing all of the things that
I joined BNI
right,
and the
you did all those things.
associations and the chamber.
So now I will challenge you. Now, when you were doing that, what was differentiating you amongst any of the other members of those same groups? Like, what was making you different in terms of you're a service provider, just like all of them?
So being very transparent at the beginning, not a whole lot. Okay. I had to find my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I had to find what made me different, what made me unique. And I also got involved and helped. And I demonstrated my value by finding ways to help others without the compensation. And then people got to know me and what I was capable of. And now that's finally, almost 2 years later.
Right. So you took the traditional route that Stone
Yeah.
explained, talked about earlier,
Yeah.
that you went in, you became a member, you got the lay of the land, you started taking leadership roles, you volunteered, you started doing all this stuff that, I mean, that's the playbook that I'm sure your coaching organization that you work with, they recommend you do. Some variation of that,
Yep.
right? Join the closed contact networking like a BNI,
Yes.
join the chamber, take leadership positions, etc. That's kind of their go-to-market strategy. So our position in that, and this is something we talked with Tricia about, is we want to be in that playbook of these coaching associations. We want them to recommend, oh, you should also be the Business RadioX studio partner, because now you're the media, you're the local business media outlet in that local market, and now you're different than everybody else. Now when you go to the BNI and the chamber, you're no longer Maggie the coach, you're Maggie the host of Memphis Business Radio. Now you're the one that's going out there telling the stories in that community. Now you're different than everybody else.
100%.
You're no longer kind of another one service provider in the market. You're the media. You're the cheerleader. You're the supporter. You're the one celebrating all the good work there. Now your positioning shifts. And being the media has its benefits.
100%. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Right. So that's what we're thinking is the lever that we need to be kind of pulling on, is that we want to be part of any coaching groups or service providers kind of go-to-market strategy. We want to be recommended, just like your coaching organization recommended join BNI. We want them to say, be a Business RadioX studio partner.
Okay, so going back to the first session that you did, going back and looking at your prior interviews, I would imagine you've got a number of people in your roster that belong to these various organizations.
People that we've interviewed to come on the show. Yes, we do. Because we've done a coaching series for a couple of years now, wildly successful. They love it. But we haven't come back to them effectively with this value proposition of being the Memphis Business RadioX.
Okay, so let's build that out. So you guys in the last, I don't know how long we've been here now, but you've talked about immense value that you create that takes them 2 to 3 years and sometimes even longer to build through alternative channels.
Right. Through the traditional model, that go-to-market strategy requires a lot of time, effort, and resources in order to execute.
Yeah, you said time, money, system.
Right. So that if they partner with us, they can be a lot more successful, a lot more quickly.
Okay. So do you have a couple of coaching organizations or other networks of coaches that you can go to? I mean, off the top of your head, I know there's one.
Right. So, I mean, but we haven't had a chance to have the conversation with the leadership of those groups yet. Okay. I mean, but that is on our kind of roadmap of, okay, we want to identify, we've already done that, identified like the top 30 to 40 coaching organizations, and then come up with a plan to get in front of them to at least kind of pitch, hey, we want to be part of your franchisee or coach go-to-market strategy.
So I love that idea, and no doubt in my mind, I know that we can get in a conversation with the grand poobah of XYZ coaching franchise or association or whatever, and we can tell them, oh, by the way, we've interviewed a dozen of the coaches in your system, but a lot of those interviews will have been virtual.
Right.
Right. And so I guess I'm a little bit stuck on this whole rowboat, selling them an outboard motor thing. I'm just trying to think what is the sales
where's the
process?
gap for you? Where's the gap for you?
Everything that they're experiencing in our building our relationship with them, and everything that their dozen members whom we've interviewed is not what we do. It looks and tastes, it smells a lot more like traditional podcasting as opposed to
Business development.
Business development.
Well, and the experience, the
guest,
real life experience.
But we ought to ask her about because you've been a guest on a show.
I was in this room.
Right. So, I mean, we're operating under the impression that the guest experience is, well, we know at the local level, to grow a studio, to grow a market, the guest experience is everything. Yeah.
So you're talking about from the coaching organization?
Right. How do we make that?
Right. So, for example, Tricia is working with us. She works with us as a studio partner in Houston. Everything she's done with us has been virtual. She's never had this experience. She's never done what you've done.
Okay.
Sat here face to face in front of people with a microphone and headphones. She's never done that. Your experience with us is different than hers.
Okay. Does it matter?
I think it does, because I think you have the visceral experience of what it's like to share the microphone and headphones with other people in this environment, where she has just done podcasting in the way that podcasting's done now, virtually over Zoom. And we try to kind of emulate or try to create an experience that's similar to this, but it's never this. It's kind of like this, but it's not this.
Okay. Versus, I'll drop a name, John Ray.
Right.
Who has an in-person studio.
Right. And he started out he was probably a guest on one of Mike's shows at some point, I'm sure, as a fractional exec.
Sure.
And then at some point he started like co-hosting with Mike, and then he grew into be a Business RadioX studio partner. And he's done a fabulous job as well. But again, I'm just trying to envision the conversation with the grand poobah of a coaching organization based out of wherever, Memphis, we've been talking about. All right. So what is my sales process? Because we know this sales process works. I mean,
so they'll have never experienced this.
They will have never.
They'll have only experienced a virtual over Zoom,
unless we go do radio day or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's think about this for a second. So Stone, you're asking, the conversation that I have with a studio partner, a singular studio partner, is very different than the conversation I have with the CEO of a coaching organization that is training coaches and bringing them online.
Well, that would be different, but also just having a sales process aimed at serving a prospective studio partner in Memphis is very different than if you and I were talking about having you be a studio partner. If John Ray wasn't already there, then it would be right now. If you and I were having a conversation about you being a studio partner in Alpharetta, that's going to take on a whole different dynamic than me having a conversation with you if you were in San Diego.
Why?
Well, and maybe I'm wrong.
Why?
I'm just saying
tell me your line of thinking. Why is that different?
Well, go ahead.
Good. Well, because in San Diego, the person we're talking to there never had this experience.
Does it matter? I'm sorry, I'm not being snarky.
I think it does.
well, we're operating under the impression that it does, but maybe it doesn't.
Maybe it matters less
than we think.
I mean, maybe it does.
And maybe we're building a wall that we shouldn't be building. I don't know. But to us, this is so different than a virtual interview.
Does it change the end result that the host of that show has people coming to them saying, I want to be on your show?
No, if they'll do the thing and then do this where they are, it'll absolutely work. I'm just talking about our sales process with them of getting them to do this in San Diego. But again, maybe we're building barriers that aren't really there.
Have you asked anybody?
Have we asked anybody?
Have you queried anybody if that matters? Have you gotten any feedback to say that it does matter or doesn't matter?
Just lack of them going all the way through the process and actually pulling the trigger to start a studio.
So your funnel is more successful going through in-person
100%.
partners than
100%.
not in person.
Yeah, the in-person stuff we are really, really good at. I mean, we have extremely fine-tuned. We know exactly what to do. When you have a physical studio, there's so much that happens in this room, and it's all by design. It's all done with intent. But maybe we just could get a lot better at using the major parts of our methodology and having those initial. Maybe it's self-created barriers, but to get the person that's out of town to understand the value of the dynamic that's created in this room.
So I agree with you that there is an extra benefit that you get from being in person. 100%. But to go from 100 down to 0 when you go from in person to Zoom or some other virtual,
Right.
does it really go down to 0?
I'm sure the answer is no.
It probably doesn't go down to 0, but does it go down to a number that's enough for them to say, okay, I'll try this virtually?
How could you test that?
Well, you know how because it was on the heels of COVID, the way I got my studio going actually was virtual. So I guess we could say, oh, and here's how we do it. To make this work over the long haul, you're going to need a studio. You're going to want a studio. You're going to make a lot more money, help a lot more people if you have a physical studio. And in most cases, you probably won't even have to pay rent. Most of our studio partners don't pay rent because they do. John Ray doesn't. Yeah. Okay. And we've learned that the best way to get this thing going quickly is to get 15 interviews in the can. And the best way to do that before you start going to get space and building out a studio and equipment and all that, the best thing to do is to do virtual. So maybe if we just told them that, but we made the expectation very clear that after this much money or after this many interviews, now it's time for you to go get your studio.
Well, it sounds like the studio is to their own benefit.
Yes.
Right. So maybe that's the secret, is to make it undeniable so that they want to have their own studio because they're going to get to that next level.
Yeah, maybe that's the framing, and we actually do have precedent for that, and I really think that's where Tricia is. I do think Tricia intends to have a physical studio in the Veteran Chamber of Commerce, and we got precedent with the way I launched this one, and then if we have precedent with Tricia, so maybe that's the way. So we just up front, here's the process. And it maybe won't feel as big a hairy a deal to them if they don't have to worry about the studio just yet. Just follow all the other parts of our methodology.
So, question, would launching virtually remove a barrier for your prospects just to get them started?
Yeah, for sure. Because
I'm thinking,
because they can just start by doing what they're doing now. They don't need anything else other than sending some messages on LinkedIn.
Or going to their local chamber or wherever they're locally.
What they're doing anyway, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that
so
works.
What would be a next step? What would get some momentum behind this?
Well, that really informs my conversation with a prospective studio partner, because that I can change on a dime. Still got to go back and figure out, okay, what's the best way to get the conversation in the first place? And maybe it really does go back to our root methodology of, if we want to have a conversation with them, we interview them just like we would if they were in a local market.
Right. Well, I mean, that's we're a one-trick pony, right?
Right.
We meet people the same way. We invite people on shows. That's how we do what we do.
So you want to be targeted about who you invite.
Right, of course. But let's pose the question to you. You've gone through this. You've been a guest on a show. Now that you have an idea of what this is and how it works, and you were like, well, let me see how I can implement this in my world. What would be kind of the pricing that you would be like, oh, that's a no-brainer, and you throw your credit card across the table versus, oh, let me think about that?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to answer it in a different way. Okay. I am not a technical person.
Right.
So if you told me, Maggie, starting a show like this is a great way to get clients, I'm immediately going to close my ears because that thing on the desk there, I don't even want to touch it. The cables,
Right.
like I don't. So for me, there's a tremendous value, Lee, in knowing that all that stuff's just going to happen. Okay.
Right.
The social media part. I'm not great on social media. If you said that's magically going to happen.
Right.
And if then you told me you're going to have people knocking on your door wanting to talk to you.
Right.
Okay, let's add up how much money I've spent for other networking associations over the last year.
Right.
Your fee pales in comparison
Right.
to that time and money and resource that you described that I've spent.
Right.
So I know your fee. I've seen it.
Is it a no-brainer?
Okay, those who are listening can't see the look on my face.
Well, she thinks it's a no-brainer at our current.
When you describe what you describe and the benefit that a host would get, yes, the scales are definitely tipped in the favor. It's a matter of you articulating the value. Now, I'm going to also add this to you. I know John. I know Trisha. I know Joshua. Okay, I don't have the pleasure of knowing Mike. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at what they did, like when I first met John, I took it purely at face value. He's just interviewing people. He's a nice guy. You go have a conversation with him in the studio. That was kind of fun. It didn't occur to me at the time that I was doing it, what those next steps or what happens after. And I think if you can find a way to help educate and articulate that, then your value goes way up.
Well, I mean, that was by design because you went in there with your sales radar down. You weren't thinking that there was any kind of business model around this.
And John's such a nice person.
Right. Well, again, that goes to our choosing the right people to be the host.
Yeah, we need more Johns and more Mikes.
And so at some point, did he ask you if you wanted to have your own show?
No. At least I don't remember him asking me that.
Well, he might have, and it didn't occur to you.
It might have went in one ear, out the other.
Because you have that kind of aversion to technology and all these things.
Yeah.
And that might have been a bridge too far, so you didn't even consider it.
Maybe not. And Joshua didn't either.
Right. So,
But can I share this with you? Okay. I was talking with a good friend of mine, who is a business owner just on Friday. And he told me he was looking for podcasts to guest on for some visibility.
Right.
Okay. And I asked him, because I had just talked to you, Stone,
Mm-hmm.
I said, what's preventing you from doing your own? And we were on Zoom and he looked at me, he's like, oh, and he's techie in his own way.
Right.
But he's like, I don't want to deal with the publishing and the editing and the social media. I was like, what if there was a way to do that for you? And he perked up. He's like, there is? That was the email I sent to you this morning, Steve.
Thank you for that.
So that's all it took.
Right.
He's interested.
Good.
And I think your price point is very doable. Like to that business owner who's at a certain stage in his business, that price point to continue to build authentic relationships, and he is a relationship builder, and he is those same values and kind of cut of that same cloth. So I think it's just a matter of leveraging the people that you have in your network that already have those values to find those other like-minded people with the same values.
That's come up a lot during this conversation.
There's a lot of homework for you.
Well, the values and the people who think like us and do get emotional compensation and financial compensation from genuinely serving other people. Maybe you can feel them out and have conversations with them, but I mean, should we have some kind of formal assessment along those lines too? Or you think it's more just get to know them through our normal relationship building process?
What would you assess?
Their values. Are they really
right? We have to kind of determine, are they a relationship person or a transactional person, like some sort
And
of.
I think all you have to do is ask a few people that know them.
So you think it's through other people that you would determine that rather than anything they said
So
themselves.
so by nature of I'm gonna consider myself a values-based person and wanting to build relationships, and I consider myself in your camp because what you're saying really resonates with me. Okay? The person that I sent the email to connect you with this morning is also cut of that same cloth. And I think like breeds like. And so I would imagine if you ask John Ray, who are the people that are close to him and who are the people that have those same values, he could probably give you a list. And you ask Trisha and she'd probably give you a list. And it could just...
Right. And we really haven't made that ask consistently, methodically. We've mentioned it before, but we haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
So can I throw that out as another bit of homework for
More
you?
homework. What, my homework? I got a whole pad of homework.
But
that's why we're doing this.
Absolutely.
That's what you get with these sessions. No, but being very deliberate about asking your existing partners whom you hold in high regard.
Right.
Who else is in your circle that shares these same values
Yep.
and
No,
is
that's
interested?
a great exercise we should be doing.
And then you could test your pricing and test your conversation. And by the way, you could just offer them to be a guest on your show as well, since that's what you do best.
Right.
Exactly.
And maybe use that as a conversation. Now, Lee, when you and I met about a year ago, had you asked me, how difficult is it for you to find clients? I don't know that you would have asked me that because that would have been a tough question to answer on air. I would have told you, wow, this has been a lot more challenging than I anticipated, and that could have swung the door wide open. But I know you're not selling. That's not your intention.
Well,
to do the
I'll
show.
tell you, when we do the show, we do ask typically a marketing question. And that marketing question in our business are relationships important to you?
Mm-hmm.
That I probably did ask some version of that during the conversation. And then depending on your answer, it would have determined what was the next kind of move to make.
Okay, so maybe I didn't answer it in the right way. I don't know.
I mean, we could go back and kind of see the paper trail that's associated, but we're trying to be better in our systems to make sure that question is asked, and also to have a follow-up path based on that answer. So we are trying to be better in that area in terms of tightening our systems, because that is an important component of our methodology. Is when the hosting mechanics we recommend to our partners is to ask some sort of a marketing question to your guests so that you can determine if they are a prospect for other services you might be offering.
So now you're going to make me go back and listen to the shows that I've been on to look for that question.
Well, I mean, that's how we go to market.
Okay. And then but before we wrap up, I want to come back to kind of where we started all of this with you targeting maybe coaching organizations, or kind of, you call it the grand poobah. Like, how do you...
Right.
Is that still top of mind for you now, or are you wanting to take a little bit of a left turn? I don't want to call it a left turn because that implies, but maybe just take a different path.
Right. I think
on your road to 100 and road to 1,000.
Well, in order to get to 100 and 1,000, we have to have kind of multiplier effect. So it is part of that journey is to get in front of people that are leading these types of organizations that have hundreds, if not thousands of the right prospects, within them. So that's definitely part of the path. We want to have meaningful conversations with people who are leading those types of organizations so we can, and we think we have to ideally get invited by somebody who is one of their members to say, hey, you should talk to these people. They might have something that could benefit all the members.
Okay. So hint, there is an organization of which one of your studio partners and I are members. And that organization also operates with very strong values and a strong culture that I believe aligns with your model. And so I think it's just a matter of an introduction and a conversation.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of other people like me that are looking for ways that where I was a year and a half ago, to launch my practice without all of the time, money, and systems that you talked about earlier. I think it could provide immense value.
Well, it makes me think, all of this, you and I know how easy all this is because he and I aren't technical either, but all of this does feel big and hairy, and I think maybe sometimes we get desensitized to how easy we take for granted, maybe, Lee, how easy it is for us to meet people and build new, real relationships, and how easy it is for us to strengthen existing relationships, and how easy it is for us to be nice to a lot of people who are never going to write us a check, but it's still just good mojo. Well, I won't speak for you. I think maybe sometimes I take all that for granted, and so I fail to communicate that when I'm talking to a prospective client.
Right. And I think that we underestimate the pain that they're going through to do the same thing.
Right.
Lee, 100%. 100%. Now, can I throw a couple of other just things to consider when you think about it? If you're just thinking about coaches,
yeah,
there are groups like ICF, the International Coaching Federations. There's a number, and there's a local chapter here in the Atlanta area. There's chapters all over the country. There's other groups like that, other groups like Focal Point that have groups of coaches. There's also others that are out there that are trying to market to coaches.
Right.
And finding ways maybe to align with them as well. I mean, I think, Lee, I think the point you made a minute ago needs to really be kind of hyper-focused. You don't necessarily see the pain that so many of these people go through, and how many of them hang their shingle up, and then after a year or two, they have to take the shingle back down.
Right.
Because
it was harder than they thought.
That hyper-introversion or other things around that. Yeah. And so going back to the value.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's encouraging to hear.
All right. So what else is on your mind today?
Well, I think we covered quite a bit, and I want to make sure before we wrap that people know how to contact you. What's the best way to
probably
with you?
Easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. Maggie, Maggie, last name is Ishak, Ishak. Go find me on LinkedIn and send me a connection request and tell me that you heard this show.
All right.
And then this time next year, you can just reach her at Maggie at
Business RadioX.
Maggie, thank you so much. This has been incredibly helpful.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Scaling in Public, the next Business RadioX 100 Markets. Are you ready to enjoy a steady stream of discovery calls and finally stop being a best-kept secret? It's time to step out of the shadows and watch your coaching business grow. Let's fill your calendar. 10 discovery calls in a month, guaranteed. Go to brxhq.com to download the free Business RadioX playbook.